Well, there are three pieces of very good news that we should all be recognizing and celebrating. The mainstream media does appear to celebrate this at some level, but they refuse to connect this achievement with the Trump administration. We have had remarkable good news. We should celebrate it. The Democrats and the mainstream news media should join us. This is Steve Gibson reporting, author of Logic's Dictate. Please join me in recognizing the tremendous production value of Tiger Logic that provides the backbone for these systems that I'm bringing to you. Back to the good news. Well, there are three pieces of very good news that we should all be recognizing and celebrating. First piece of good news. NASA and Artemis II have traveled the farthest point in deep space in terms of a manned operation than at any time in history. A lot of things could have gone wrong. The jet propulsion could have gone wrong. The guidance could have been an error. There are 1,000 systems that could have gone wrong, but they've gone flawlessly. And we are back in the game of space travel, on our way potentially to creating a manned base on the moon that will potentially have tremendous other benefits. This is a special time in history that we're able to experience, and we should be celebrating it. Now, I would grant you that some of the mainstream media does appear to celebrate this at some level, but they refuse to connect this achievement with the Trump administration. That seems to me to be galactically unfair. What else has happened? Perhaps less stunning is that we added almost 180,000 new employees to the labor rolls in the past 30 days. Now, the prior month was a decrease, but the net of the 2 months was an increase. We need to celebrate the fact that despite the fact that we are experiencing obviously some trauma with respect to the Strait of Hormuz, the economy's still rolling. The fundamentals of the economy continue to be strong. Those fundamentals are based upon Trump administration policies and the basic ingenuity of the American capitalist democratic system. We need to celebrate and recognize that we have what by all estimations continues to be something close to full employment with relatively low inflation. Now, yes, gas prices have increased, and that is the result of what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. But we all have to recognize that the Strait of Hormuz is not going to remain closed forever. The Strait of Hormuz being closed is more or less affecting Europe and Asia much more than it is the United States. The fact that we have a global market for oil right now, and that's affecting the United States at some level, does not mean that we're going to experience the kind of lines at the gas station that we had in the 1970s. We also should recognize without question that neither the Trump administration, Europe or Asia, or even the other countries in the Middle East are going to permit the Strait of Hormuz to remain closed for an elongated period of time. Once the Strait of Hormuz opens, those prices are going to plummet dramatically, and they're going to plummet more likely than not well in advance of the summer driving season. So given the fundamentals of the economy remain strong, given the fact that gas prices are going to come down inevitably, and therefore inflation overall will continue to decline, We need to celebrate the good news. What else is good about this is that we are probably going to eliminate for good the Iranian capability to close the Strait of Hormuz. Once it's opened and we get control of it, one way or the other, the Iranians are not going to have control of it ever again. That is critically important for the ultimate stability of the global system. There's a lot of other good news out there that we need to be celebrating, and the mainstream doesn't seem to be celebrating at all. And we're going to see the results of what's going to be happening in the Middle East. But one of the other things that's happened over the weekend that is tremendous is the amazing recovery of our soldiers deep inside Iranian territory. Now, this operation could have gone bad, but it is the system that is being administered by the Trump administration that we need to celebrate. We need to give some recognition, because if it went bad, the Trump administration would have been blamed. By virtue of the fact that it went almost flawlessly, needs to be something that we then therefore have to give the Trump administration credit for. There were serious questions as to whether or not the Department of War Secretary Hegseth was the right person for the job. Now, whether or not he had any influence with General Kane in the process, whether or not he made the right recommendations to President Trump, we don't know exactly the level of influence that he has, but we do know one thing. He is an effective communicator for that department. He is an effective communicator as a cabinet secretary. Now, we don't know behind the scenes how much he actually is administering some of these programs and missions, and how much of it is just pure military genius and the administration of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Kane. I would make the argument that he has to have some level of influence, and we've got to give the administration some level of credit with respect to this mission. This was not just saving one soldier. It was going during the daylight hours over a 7-hour flight period in enemy territory, being shot at and being able to save the first air person that was downed, and then hours later going back in the evening, even deeper into enemy territory, and saving the second person. This is not something that we don't recognize as critical administration of a system and a mission. We can remember Jimmy Carter and the failed mission with the helicopters that were downed. We remember those videos. We remember all kinds of missions that didn't necessarily go well. We need to give credit. So we have tremendous effectiveness of the space program being administered by the Trump administration. We have tremendous effectiveness in the economy right now, with the Strait of Hormuz more likely going to be opened very shortly. And with those oil prices and gas prices that will come down, that is going to give an extra boost to the economy. We are going to have tremendous tax refunds coming our way, given the fact that overtime isn't being taxed, tips aren't being taxed, and there are tax benefits based upon the big, beautiful bill that are going to be demonstrated in an infusion of funds that are going to be coming right after the April refund season. That's going to give an extra boost to the economy. Folks, what I'm trying to say here is not that we should be celebrating the Trump administration at every level. Mistakes have been made, policies could be better, but we do need to take stock and say, you know what? Things aren't that bad. And there's a reason that things aren't that bad. It's not all pure happenstance. It's not just luck. It is good administration of the system, good choices that are being made, geopolitical choices such as gaining the oil from Venezuela, potentially dealing with Cuba. These types of things have meaning. They have impact on our daily lives ultimately. We need to celebrate these things, and we need to understand that if we don't have these policies continue, it could be disastrous in the future.